The invitation sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. You are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Alexis and Nolan. I read those words 20 times, each repetition feeling like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. My sister and my ex-husband. The universe really does have a sick sense of humor. I'm Peyton, and 6 months ago, my biggest concern was whether to repaint my living room sage or olive green. Now, I'm standing here, holding an invitation that's shattered my entire world. You need to come to dinner tonight, my mother had said on the phone this morning, her voice carrying that familiar tone of forced cheerfulness. Both girls together, like old times. Old times. Before Nolan. Before the divorce. Before my sister became the other woman. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of wedding talk and forced pleasantries. As I drove home later, that note burned a hole in my pocket. A.M. The initials sparked something in my memory, a name I'd seen on some paperwork during the divorce proceedings. I pulled into my driveway and sat there, engine idling. The old Peyton would have cried herself to sleep tonight. The old Peyton would have accepted this betrayal as her lot in life. But I'm not the old Peyton anymore. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I needed. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Theo, it's me. Remember when you said you knew a good private investigator? I need that number, now. You're telling me you found this in your mom's bathroom? Theo pushed his coffee aside and leaned closer to examine the note I'd found. We were sitting in our usual corner of the local cafe, away from curious ears. It has to mean something, right? I spread out several other papers on the small table. Old bank statements, tax documents, anything I'd kept from my marriage to Nolan. AM keeps showing up in these transactions, but I can't figure out who they are. Theo ran his fingers through his dark curls, a habit he'd had since college. And you're sure you want to go down this rabbit hole? Sometimes letting go is, he's marrying my sister, Theo. I cut him off, my voice sharper than intended. This isn't about letting go anymore. This is about protecting her from whatever he's planning. Okay. He held up his hands in surrender. I'll text you Manuel's number. He's the best PI I know, but he's intense. My phone buzzed with the contact. I stepped outside to make the call, pacing the sidewalk as it rang. Manuel Kelly, a gruff voice answered. Hi, I'm Peyton. Theo gave me your number. I need help investigating someone. Meet me at Harrison's Diner in an hour. Bring everything you have. He hung up before I could respond. I turned to find Theo watching me through the cafe window, concern etched on his face. Back inside, I gathered my papers. He wants to meet now. I'm coming with you, Theo said, already standing. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Because the last time you had that look in your eyes, you ended up dyeing your hair pink and buying a motorcycle. That was 10 years ago, and I'm still traumatized. Harrison's Diner was nearly empty when we arrived. Manuel was easy to spot, a compact man with sharp eyes and a laptop that had seen better days. He gestured us over, without looking up from his screen. Show me what you've got, he said as we slid into the booth. I spread everything out, explaining about the note and the mysterious AM. Manuel's fingers flew across his keyboard as I talked. These transactions, he pointed to several entries on my old bank statements. They're structured to stay just under reporting limits. Classic money laundering technique. My stomach lurched. Money laundering? Your ex-husband's been busy. Manuel turned his laptop around. Look familiar? On the screen was a photo of Nolan shaking hands with a man outside an office building. The timestamp showed it was from last week. That's Andrew Morrison, Manuel said. He's been investigated twice for securities fraud, but nothing stuck. Want to guess what his initials are? AM, Theo whispered. My phone chimed. A text from Alexis. Dress shopping tomorrow? Please come. I need my big sister. I showed it to Theo, who squeezed my hand under the table. There's more, Manuel said, typing again. Your ex-husband's name is connected to a shell corporation called Vertex Enterprises. Established 3 months before your divorce, primary shareholder is listed as AM Holdings. How much would it cost to dig deeper? I asked. Manuel named a figure that made me wince, but I nodded. Do it. Peyton, Theo started, but I shook my head. I've got money saved. This is worth it. As we left the diner, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Peyton? A woman's voice, unfamiliar and nervous. I worked with Nolan at his old firm. There's something you should know about the offshore account. What offshore account? The one in the Caymans, under his grandmother's maiden name. I shouldn't be calling, but when I heard he was getting married again, just check the transfers from March 15th. That's all I can say. The line went dead. Theo was watching me. What was that about? I found myself driving to my childhood home that evening, muscle memory guiding me through familiar streets while my mind raced. The moment I walked in, I knew something was wrong. The dining room table was set with Mom's best china, the set she only uses for special occasions. Peyton! Alexis rushed forward, practically bouncing. Her left hand was conspicuously hidden behind her back. I'm so glad you came. What's going on? I asked, though deep down I already knew. I don't know, I said slowly, but I think we just found our first real lead. My phone chimed again. Another text from Alexis. Found the perfect place for dress shopping. Mom's coming too. Please say yes. I stared at the message, my throat tight. Tomorrow, I'd have to smile and ooh and ah over wedding dresses while knowing my sister's fiancé might be involved in serious financial crimes. What are you going to do? Theo asked softly. I typed back. Wouldn't miss it. See you tomorrow. I'm going to play along, I told Theo, my voice steady. And while they're planning their perfect wedding, we're going to find out exactly what Nolan's been hiding. We? Yes, we. Unless you've got better plans for the next few months? Theo sighed dramatically. Well, I was planning to finally learn macrame, but I suppose exposing your ex-husband's potential criminal empire takes priority. As we walked to our cars, Manuel's text arrived. Found something interesting in Vertex's tax records. Meet tomorrow afternoon? The game was on. You're awfully quiet today, Mom said, arranging cookies on a plate while I sat at her kitchen counter. The same counter where I'd done my homework, shared secrets, and cried over my first breakup. Now it felt like neutral territory in a war I hadn't asked for. Just tired. The dress shopping was intense. I picked up a cookie but didn't eat it. Watching Alexis try on wedding dresses had been like experiencing an out-of-body experience, surreal and slightly nauseating. She looked beautiful in that lace one, didn't she? Mom's voice softened. You know, Nolan came by yesterday. He wanted to talk about father-daughter dance songs with your dad. The cookie crumbled in my grip. Did Dad agree to see him? No, Mom sighed, wiping invisible crumbs from the counter. He's still processing. At least someone in this family is. Peyton? Has Nolan mentioned anything about his new business ventures? I tried to keep my voice casual. Alexis said something about a new investment firm? Mom's hands stilled. Something flickered across her face. Doubt? Worry? He's been very successful lately. Bought Alexis that beautiful ring cash. Said something about a big deal with some company. Vertex, I think. My heart skipped. Vertex? Yes, that's it, though. She lowered her voice, glancing around as if the walls might have ears. I overheard him on the phone last week. He sounded angry, talking about moving money around. When I asked, he said it was just work stress, but my phone buzzed. Manuel requesting an urgent meeting. Mom, I have to go. Work thing. I stood up, kissing her cheek. Thanks for the cookies. Peyton? She caught my arm. Be careful, sweetheart. Whatever you're doing, just be careful. I froze. What makes you think I'm doing anything? Because you're my daughter, and you've got that same look you had when you were 7 and caught your sister stealing from your piggy bank. You didn't confront her. You set up a sting operation with your stuffed animals as witnesses. Despite everything, I laughed. I forgot about that. Just remember, the truth always comes out. Sometimes it's just a matter of waiting for the right moment. 20 minutes later, I walked into Manuel's office. a small space above a laundromat that smelled faintly of fabric softener. Theo was already there, looking at something on Manuel's computer. "Show her," Theo said without looking up. Manuel turned his monitor. "Meet Andrew Morrison's wife, Amanda Morrison." The photo showed an elegant woman at a charity gala. Standing next to her was Nolan, his hand on her lower back, far too intimate for a business relationship. "When was this taken?" "2 months before your divorce." The pieces started falling into place. AM wasn't just Andrew Morrison, it was Amanda too. "There's more," Manuel said, pulling up financial records. Vertex Enterprises has been moving large sums through various accounts. The pattern suggests they're collecting investments for a non-existent fund. "A Ponzi scheme," Theo explained, seeing my confusion. "And my sister's about to marry into it." I sank into a chair. "How much money are we talking about?" Mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Sit down, honey. We're just waiting for one more person." The doorbell rang, and my stomach dropped. I heard his voice before I saw him. That smooth, confident tone that once made my knees weak. Now it just made me nauseous. Millions. Manuel's expression was grim. And based on these transactions, they're getting ready for something big. The wedding might be a cover, a way to appear stable and trustworthy to potential investors. My phone lit up with a text from Alexis. "Nolan's planning a surprise engagement party next week. Don't tell Mom." "Perfect timing," Manuel said, reading the message over my shoulder. "Large gatherings of wealthy potential investors. We need concrete proof before then," I said. "Something undeniable." "Already working on it." Manuel pulled up another window. "Remember that offshore account tip? Found it. The transactions on March 15th were interesting. Large transfers to an account belonging to one Amanda Morrison." "The wife?" Theo leaned forward. "Why would Nolan be sending her money?" "Blackmail, maybe?" I suggested. "Or paying for silence?" My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. "Found something odd in the attic. Old papers of Nolan's from when you were married. Should I keep them?" "Tell her yes," Manuel said quickly. "Those could be important." As I typed my response, another message came through, this one from an unknown number. "Engagement party, back room of Morrison's office, 8 p.m., bring proof." "Amanda," I breathed. "It has to be." "It's a trap," Theo warned. "Or it's our chance." I looked at Manuel. "Can you get me everything you have by next week?" He nodded slowly. "It'll cost extra for the rush." "Do it." I stood up, suddenly energized. "Theo, I need you to be my +1 at an engagement party." "Wouldn't miss it." He grinned. "Should I wear my I'm with the whistleblower t-shirt?" For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. The truth was coming together, piece by piece. Now I just had to survive an engagement party long enough to expose it. "Are you sure about this?" Theo adjusted his tie as we sat in my car outside the upscale restaurant where the engagement party was being held. The manila envelope on my lap felt heavier than it should. "No," I admitted, checking my lipstick in the rearview mirror. "But we're doing it anyway." The valet took my keys, and we walked into LeBlanc, where Nolan had proposed to me 4 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Peyton!" Alexis rushed over, champagne in hand. "You came, and you brought Theo!" She hugged us both, the diamond ring on her finger catching the light. "Nolan's just finishing up a business call. Come meet everyone." She dragged us through the crowd of well-dressed guests. I recognized several faces from Nolan's old firm, plus a few new ones who must be Vertex investors. Andrew Morrison stood near the bar, his wife Amanda beside him in a red dress that probably cost more than my car. 8 o'clock, Amanda mouthed when our eyes met, gesturing subtly toward a hallway. "I need some air," I told Theo, patting the envelope hidden in my clutch. "Cover for me?" "Be careful," he whispered, then loudly said, "Don't forget your jacket in the car." I slipped down the hallway, following the signs to Morrison's private office. The door was unlocked. Amanda stood by the window, drinking straight from a bottle of expensive scotch. "Close the door," she said without turning around. I did. "Why help me?" "Because your sister isn't the only one being played." She turned, mascara slightly smudged. "Show me what you have." I pulled out Manuel's documents. Bank transfers, shell companies, proof of the Ponzi scheme. "But you already knew about that, didn't you?" "I knew something was wrong when Andrew started moving our personal assets offshore." She picked up the papers with manicured hands. "Then I found out about Nolan and the others." "Others? You think you were his first wife? Or that Alexis is his first affair?" She laughed bitterly. "It's their pattern. Find wealthy women, marry them, gain access to their family's money and connections, then divorce, hide the assets, and move on to the next target." My blood ran cold. "Alexis doesn't have any money." "Sorry, I'm late," Nolan said, stepping into the dining room. He looked exactly the same. Tall, well-dressed, with that perfectly maintained stubble that had once driven me wild. His eyes met mine for a brief moment before darting away. "Now that everyone's here," Alexis practically squealed, finally bringing her left hand forward. The diamond caught the light, making me flinch. "We're engaged!" "No, but your parents do. That trust fund they set up for your father's retirement? The one that matures next month?" Amanda took another drink. "Nolan's been forging documents to gain access. The wedding is just a formality." The door opened. Nolan stood there, his charming smile firmly in place. "I thought I might find you here." "Nolan," Amanda started. "Save it." He closed the door behind him. "Peyton, crashing your sister's engagement party? That's low, even for you. Not as low as stealing from my family." I grabbed the documents from Amanda. "It's over, Nolan. I have proof of everything." "Do you?" He stepped closer. "Because all I see is my bitter ex-wife conspiring with my business partner's alcoholic spouse to ruin her own sister's happiness. Who do you think people will believe?" "I found the note," I said, "in Mom's bathroom, about the transfers with AM." Something flickered in his eyes. "One cryptic note proves nothing, but the offshore accounts do, and the forged documents, and the other wives." "You're bluffing." "Try me." I pulled out my phone. "One call to the SEC, and it all comes crashing down." He moved faster than I expected, grabbing my wrist. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." "Let her go." Theo stood in the doorway, phone raised. "I've been recording everything. One wrong move, and this goes live to every guest out there." Nolan released me, straightening his tie. "This isn't over." Actually, it is." Amanda stepped forward. "Because I've been wearing a wire for the FBI for the past month. They have everything they need." The color drained from Nolan's face. In the distance, we could hear commotion from the main room. "That would be the federal agents," Amanda said, suddenly sober. "They're probably talking to Andrew right now." Nolan bolted for the door, but Theo blocked his path. "Going somewhere?" Two FBI agents appeared behind Theo. "Mr. Nolan, we need you to come with us." As they led him away, I turned to Amanda. "Why didn't you tell me about the FBI?" "Couldn't risk it. Needed your investigation to play out naturally." She smiled sadly. "Besides, I figured you deserved your own shot at justice." We walked back to the main room together. Alexis stood in the center, tears streaming down her face as agents interviewed guests. When she saw me, her expression crumpled. "Did you know?" she whispered. "About all of this?" I handed her the envelope. "I was trying to protect you." She stared at the documents, then at me, then back at the chaos around us. "I need a drink." "I know a place," Theo said gently, "and I think both of you could use one." As we left the restaurant, I glanced back at the scene we'd created. Sometimes I realized the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about exposing the truth, no matter how much it hurts. "He's out on bail!" Theo's voice crackled through my phone speaker 3 days after the engagement party. Manuel just called. Nolan's lawyers worked fast. I gripped my steering wheel tighter, watching Alexis's apartment building through my windshield. "Does she know?" Not yet. Where are you? Outside her place. She's been dodging my calls. Peyton, maybe give her some space. A tap on my window made me jump. Alexis stood there, arms crossed, looking like she hadn't slept in days. I hung up on Theo and got out of the car. Stalking me now? She asked. We need to talk. About how you ruined my life? Or about how you humiliated me in front of everyone I know? About how Nolan's out on bail? That got her attention. She glanced around the parking lot, suddenly nervous. Come inside. Her apartment was a mess. Empty wine bottles, wedding magazines torn to shreds, and a half-packed suitcase in the corner. The engagement ring sat on the coffee table like a discarded piece of costume jewelry. When did you know? She asked, collapsing onto her couch. About the fraud? I suspected something was wrong when I found that note, but I didn't know how deep it went until… No, she cut me off. When did you know about us? About me and Nolan? I sat across from her. Christmas, when you both lied about being out of town. She laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. You want to know the worst part? He told me you knew, said you were fine with it, that you'd moved on months ago. I believed him because I wanted to. Why him, Alexis? Of all people? The room spun. Mom was beaming. Nolan had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. Alexis kept talking, but her words became white noise. That's wonderful, I managed to choke out, gripping my water glass so hard I thought it might shatter. We wanted you to be the first to know, Alexis said, reaching for Nolan's hand across the table. You're my sister, Pei. Your blessing means everything to me. Because he was yours! She exploded, standing up. Your perfect husband, your perfect life. Do you know what it's like being the screw-up sister? The one who can't hold down a relationship or a job? The one mom's always worried about? Is that what you think? That my life was perfect? I stood too, anger finally breaking through. He cheated on me with 3 different women before you. He emptied our joint accounts. He made me feel crazy for suspecting anything. I didn't know, she whispered, about the other women, about any of it. Because you didn't want to know. The words came out harsher than intended. My phone buzzed. A text from Manuel. Nolan spotted heading your way. Get out now. We need to leave, I said, showing her the message. I'm not going anywhere with you. Alexis, please. A knock at the door made us both freeze. Alexis! Nolan's voice. Baby, I can explain everything. Alexis moved toward the door, but I grabbed her arm. Don't. Let go of me. He's using you to get to Mom and Dad's trust fund. The wedding was just a cover. The knocking got louder. I know you're in there, both of you. We need to talk. Alexis yanked her arm free. Maybe I want to hear his side. His side? The FBI has recordings, bank statements, testimonies from other women he's scammed. What more do you need? You don't understand, she said, tears streaming down her face. I love him. No, you love who you thought he was, just like I did. The door handle jiggled. Nolan must have kept a key. I grabbed Alexis's hand. Fire escape, now! For a moment, I thought she'd refuse. Then the door started to open, and she ran with me to the window. We climbed out just as Nolan entered the apartment. Alexis! He called after us. Don't listen to her. She's trying to turn you against me. We clattered down the metal stairs, my heels making too much noise. I could hear him following. My car's around the corner, I panted. Wait. Alexis stopped suddenly. The ring. I left it inside. Seriously? It's evidence, isn't it, of the fraud? I stared at my sister, really looked at her, and for the first time in months, I saw the sharp, clever girl I grew up with. Back entrance, she said. He doesn't know about it. Through the laundry room. We doubled back, slipping through the building's service entrance. Alexis used her key to access the stairs, and we crept back up to her floor. He'll be checking the street, she whispered as we eased her apartment door open. The ring still sat on the coffee table. Alexis grabbed it, along with a stack of papers from her desk. His investment proposals, the ones he wanted me to show Dad. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. We ducked into her bedroom just as Nolan re-entered the apartment. Think, I muttered, looking around. My eyes landed on her closet, and the access panel to the neighboring unit I knew was empty. As Nolan's footsteps approached the bedroom, I pulled Alexis toward the closet. For the first time since this whole mess began, we moved in perfect sync, like when we were kids playing hide and seek. Maybe that's what we needed, to remember who we were before Nolan came between us. You girls did what? Mom's voice echoed through her kitchen as Alexis and I sat at the familiar counter, still breathless from our escape. We'd crawled through the access panel, sprinted down 3 flights of stairs, and driven straight here. We had to, Alexis said, spreading out the investment documents we'd grabbed. Look at these, Mom. The signature at the bottom. It's Dad's. But he never signed these. Mom adjusted her reading glasses, hands trembling slightly as she examined the papers. These are dated last week. Your father was in the hospital for his knee surgery then. Exactly. I pulled out my phone, showing her the photos Manuel had sent. Nolan's been forging signatures, setting up fake investment accounts. The wedding was just a way to get closer to the family money. I should have seen it, Alexis whispered. All those meetings he wanted with Dad about investment opportunities. The way he kept asking about the trust fund. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. Back door, Mom said immediately, her voice steady. Go, I'll handle this. Mom, I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Excuse me, bathroom. I barely made it to the upstairs bathroom before the tears came. Leaning against the sink, I caught my reflection in the mirror, pale, shocked, betrayed. My hand brushed against something as I reached for a tissue. A small box had fallen from the medicine cabinet, spilling its contents across the counter. Now, girls. We slipped out through the kitchen just as Mom opened the front door. Nolan's voice drifted through the house. Andrea, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I'm looking for Alexis. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. We crouched behind Mom's garden shed, listening. She's not here, Nolan. Mom's voice was ice cold. And if she was, I wouldn't tell you. Andrea, please, you know me. I love your daughter. Which one? Silence. That's what I thought. Mom's voice grew stronger. I've called my lawyer. He's reviewing everything. The forged documents, the fake accounts, all of it. Leave my family alone, or the FBI won't be your only problem. The shed door creaked open behind us. We spun around to find Theo. Jesus! I hissed. What are you doing here? Manuel called, said Nolan was making the rounds. I figured you'd come here. He peeked around the corner. Nice speech from your mom. We need to get somewhere safe, Alexis said. He's not going to stop. My place, Theo offered. He doesn't know where I live. We heard the front door slam, followed by a car engine starting. Girls, Mom called softly. Coast is clear. Back in the kitchen, Mom was already on the phone. Yes, Detective Roberts. He was just here. Yes, I understand the restraining order won't be processed until Monday. Alexis grabbed my arm suddenly. The wedding venue. What? I never canceled it. The deposit, the guest list, everything's still set for next Saturday. Her eyes were wide. He's been calling all morning about keeping the date. Why would he care about the venue now? Theo asked. The answer hit me like a truck. The investors. He invited all of Vertex's biggest investors to the wedding. It's his last chance to collect money before everything falls apart. Mom hung up the phone. The detective says they're building their case, but it could take weeks. We don't have weeks, Alexis said. We have 7 days. Theo pulled out his laptop. Manuel sent over everything he has on the wedding guests. Look, half of them are high-net-worth individuals connected to Vertex. He's going to take their money and run, I realized. The wedding was never going to happen. It was just a cover for one final investment meeting. Then we use it against him, Alexis said firmly. Keep the venue. Let him think it's still happening. Alexis, no, Mom started. Yes! She stood straighter, looking more like herself than she had in months. He used me to get to this family. Let me help take him down. My phone buzzed. Amanda. FBI moving too slow. Nolan planning something big at wedding. Need your help. I showed them the message. It's dangerous, Theo warned. So is letting him do this to another family, Alexis countered. She turned to me. I know I have no right to ask for your help after everything. Stop! I grabbed her hand. You're my sister. We're doing this together. Mom sighed heavily. Your father is going to kill me for this, but... She pulled out her phone. I'm calling in a favor from Uncle Jack at the security firm. Theo was already typing. I'll contact Manuel, get everything set up. One condition, I said to Alexis. No more secrets between us. Ever. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Never again. We spent the next hour planning, turning the wedding venue into a trap. As we worked, I realized something. Revenge hadn't brought me peace, but working with my sister to expose the truth? That felt like justice. The wedding was still on, but this time, we were writing the ending. The Grand Plaza Hotel's ballroom sparkled with wedding decorations, each crystalline flower hiding a carefully placed camera or microphone. I adjusted my earpiece, disguised as a pearl earring, and smoothed down my bridesmaid's dress. Testing, testing! Theo's voice crackled in my ear. Everyone online? Copy, Manuel responded from his position at the bar, posing as a server. Ready? Came Amanda's voice. She sat with the other guests, wearing a wire beneath her designer dress. Security team in position, Uncle Jack confirmed. FBI standing by, Detective Roberts added. I watched Alexis pace in the bridal suite, still in her wedding dress. You don't have to go through with this, I told her. Yes, I do. She checked her makeup one last time. Did you see how many people are out there? All those potential investors, their life savings at risk. We have to stop him. Among the scattered items was a folded piece of paper. I recognized Nolan's handwriting immediately. Transfer complete. AM confirmed receipt. Everything's set for phase 2. Just keep playing your part. The note was dated 3 months before our divorce. A knock at the door made me jump. Peyton? It was Mom. Are you okay, sweetie? I quickly pocketed the note. Fine, I called back, splashing cold water on my face. Just needed a minute. Heads up, Theo cut in. Nolan just arrived. He's gathering investors in the hotel's conference room. That's not part of the plan, I said. The evidence handoff was supposed to happen during the ceremony. Change of plans. Amanda's voice was tense. He's spooked, wants to collect the money before the wedding starts. Alexis grabbed my hand. We need to move now. No, I squeezed her hand back. Let me handle this. You've done enough. Peyton, trust me, please. She nodded slowly. I slipped out of the bridal suite and made my way to the conference room, my heels silent on the plush carpet. Through the partially open door, I could hear Nolan's smooth sales pitch. Guaranteed returns of 20% annually, but this exclusive opportunity closes today. I pushed the door open. 30 pairs of eyes turned to me. Sorry I'm late, I said brightly. Did I miss the part where you explain how you're using my sister's wedding as a front for investment fraud? Nolan's smile never wavered. Peyton, always the dramatic one. Everyone, my ex-wife seems to be having trouble letting go. Actually, I pulled out my phone. I'm having trouble understanding these bank statements. You know, the ones showing how you emptied joint accounts? Or these documents with my father's forged signature? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She's obviously disturbed, Nolan said smoothly. Security? Oh, you mean Uncle Jack's team? I smiled. They're with us, along with the FBI agents posing as wedding guests. The door opened again. Amanda walked in, followed by Detective Roberts and 2 other agents. It's over, Nolan, Amanda said. They have everything. The offshore accounts, the forged documents, testimonies from your previous victims. Previous victims? A well-dressed woman stood up. What previous victims? Show them. I nodded to Theo, who had slipped in behind me. He projected documents onto the conference room wall. Bank records, court files, photos. Evidence of Nolan's past marriages, divorces, and frauds. This is ridiculous. Nolan moved toward the door, but Uncle Jack's security team blocked his path. The money, an elderly man demanded. The investments we made today. Where is it? Already traced, Detective Roberts said. Being transferred to accounts in the Caymans as we speak. Or it would be, if we hadn't frozen everything an hour ago. Nolan lunged for the other door, but Manuel was there, tackling him smoothly to the ground. Nice move, I commented. Former linebacker, Manuel grunted, keeping Nolan pinned. The ballroom doors burst open. Alexis stood there in her wedding dress, looking like an avenging angel. You forgot something, she said, walking toward Nolan. She pulled out a small recorder. Your confession from last night. Nolan's face went white. What confession? She pressed play. His voice filled the room. Of course I don't love her. She's just a means to an end, like her sister was. Once I have their father's money. The recording continued, detailing every aspect of his scheme. I watched the last of his composure crumble as Detective Roberts read him his rights. The ring, Alexis said coldly, pulling it off her finger. I believe this belongs to the FBI now. Evidence of funds obtained through fraud. As agents led Nolan away, the investors crowded around Detective Roberts, demanding answers about their money. Amanda began explaining the recovery process. Well, Theo appeared beside me. That was more exciting than your average wedding. Speaking of which, I looked at Alexis. What do you want to do about all this? I gestured at the decorated ballroom. She looked around at the flowers, the ribbons, the waiting chairs. Then she smiled. A real, genuine smile I hadn't seen in months. Let's have a party, she said. Not a wedding. A celebration of justice and family. I'll alert the DJ, Theo grinned. As guests began filtering in from the conference room, Mom and Dad appeared, hugging us both. My girls, Mom whispered. My brave, brilliant girls. The truth had finally set us all free. I still can't believe you turned your failed wedding into a justice-served party, Theo said, helping me hang the last of the fairy lights in Mom's backyard. The summer evening was perfect for our family's first proper gathering since Nolan's arrest. When I returned to the dining room, Alexis was showing Mom her Pinterest wedding boards on her phone. Nolan watched me carefully as I sat down. So, I said, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass, how long has this been going on? We reconnected at Christmas, Alexis said quickly. Too quickly. It just happened. Oh, better than letting all that food and champagne go to waste. Alexis called from the patio, where she was arranging platters. She'd traded her wedding dress for jeans and looked more like herself than she had in months. My phone buzzed. A text from Detective Roberts. Nolan took the plea deal. 15 years. No parole for 10. Thought you'd want to know. I showed the message to Alexis. Good, she said firmly. The restitution hearings start next week, right? Amanda's testifying first, I confirmed. She's helping track down his other victims. Mom emerged from the house carrying her famous lasagna. Less talk about him, more help with these dishes. The backyard slowly filled with people who'd supported us through everything. Manuel chatting with Uncle Jack about security techniques, Amanda showing Dad photos of her new private investigation firm, friends and family who'd chosen sides and stuck by us. Package for Peyton? A delivery woman appeared at the gate. I signed for the small box, opening it to find a single key and a note. For the sister who never gave up. Love, A. Inside was the key to Amanda's office. She'd offered me a job as her partner. Take it, Alexis said, reading over my shoulder. You're good at this, uncovering the truth, helping people. What about you? I asked. Have you decided about the job offer? She grinned. Started Monday. Turns out financial fraud investigation units love hiring people with first-hand experience of investment scams. My daughters, the crime-fighting duo. Mom sighed, but she was smiling. Just promise me no more undercover operations at family events. No promises, we said in unison, then laughed. Really laughed, like we used to before everything went wrong. Theo clinked his glass. If I could have everyone's attention, I'd like to propose a toast. Everyone gathered around as he continued. To the strongest family I know, to truth that comes to light, to sisters who have each other's backs, and to justice that's better than revenge. To justice, everyone echoed. And to new beginnings, Amanda added, raising her glass. The FBI task force wants our help on another case. Something about a series of wedding planner scams. Already on it, Manuel called out, waving his laptop. Got some interesting leads. See? Theo nudged me. The universe has a sense of humor after all. Dad cleared his throat. While we're making announcements, your mother and I have decided to start a foundation for victims of financial fraud. We're calling it Truth Funds. Really? Alexis's eyes widened. Really? Mom confirmed. And we'd like you both to help run it. If you're interested. I looked at Alexis, seeing in her eyes the same mix of emotions I felt. Gratitude for where we'd ended up, relief at having our family whole again, excitement for what came next. One condition, I said. We do it together. No more secrets, no more competition. Deal! Alexis hugged me tight. Partners? Partners! The party continued into the night, fairy lights twinkling like stars. I found myself by the old tree swing, watching everyone mingle and laugh. Penny, for your thoughts? Theo joined me, offering a glass of champagne. Just thinking about that note I found in Mom's bathroom, how something so small led to all of this. Sometimes the smallest truths unlock the biggest lies, he said. Speaking of which, he pulled out an envelope. Manuel found these today. Thought you should see them. Inside were photos of Nolan with another woman, dated before he'd even met me. There's always another secret with him, isn't there? I sighed. But the photos didn't hurt anymore. They just felt like confirmation that we'd done the right thing. Peyton! Alexis! Amanda called. Come see what we found. We joined the group gathered around Manuel's laptop, where a familiar pattern of transactions was emerging on the screen. Look familiar? He asked. Very. Alexis leaned closer. Same setup as Vertex? Similar, Amanda nodded. Different players, same game. I felt that familiar spark of determination. Well then, what are we waiting for? Hold up, Mom interrupted. First dessert, then you can save the world. As we gathered around the table, passing plates of Mom's tiramisu, I realized something. Sometimes the happy ending isn't about getting everything you thought you wanted. Sometimes it's about discovering what you were meant to do all along. Christmas, when I was in Chicago for work. When Nolan was supposedly in Seattle on business. When Alexis told me she was too busy to meet up for our traditional sisters' holiday lunch. Sometimes the heart wants what it wants, Nolan added softly, and I wanted to scream at the audacity. Instead, I took a sip of wine and said, well, I hope you're both very happy. And sometimes it's about finding out that your sister isn't just your sister. She's your best ally in the fight for truth. Ready for our next adventure? Alexis whispered. I squeezed her hand. Always.
I will take care of Ivy, so don't worry about anything else. I broke both my legs through my own carelessness and had to be hospitalized for a month. My husband was to take care of our only daughter, Ivy, during that time. However, my husband is not only extremely indecisive, but also a mother's boy. How could he possibly take care of Ivy for a month when my mother-in-law and Ivy are not getting along? I did some frantic rehabilitation and was able to leave the hospital a little earlier. But at that point, everything was too late. I decided to take revenge that was more painful than what my husband and mother-in-law had done to Ivy. My name is Hazel and I am 33 years old. We have a family of 3, Troy, who is 4 years older than me, and Ivy, who is in 1st grade. My father-in-law runs a company and my husband works for him. We met through a friend. I couldn't believe that I was going out with the next president of the company, but my husband liked me better and we soon developed a relationship. I felt that he was older and more masculine and receptive, but I realized after we were married that this was not the case. The day I met my parents-in-laws for the first time, my mother-in-law liked me very much. At the time, I did not understand why she liked me so much, but after seeing her several times, I began to understand. Hazel is 4 years younger than Troy. With this, I think she will give birth to a healthy boy who will be my heir right away. When she said that, I felt a thrill. Could it be that she was looking at me as a tool to have a child? I had a hunch. And my hunch was right. Our new home after marriage was an apartment within a 10-minute walk of my parents-in-law's house. My husband insisted that we live in this apartment. I would have preferred to live a little further away from my parents-in-law's house, but my husband was adamant. The reason why my husband insisted on the apartment was because he was an extreme mother's boy. My mother-in-law also spoiled him. The manly and patient figure I thought he had when we were dating was an illusion he had created in order to marry me. In reality, he was an indecisive man who couldn't even decide what color tie to wear that day. I was really surprised the first day I found out about it. I thought he was mumbling to himself in front of his closet in the morning, but it turned out he was on a video call with his mother. "Mom, I have a meeting with an important business partner today. Which color tie do you think is best?" What he was showing was a reddish tie and a light blue tie. Who cares which is better? I was dumbfounded and watched the situation some more. "Troy, you look better in blue, so you should go for the light blue tie. You'll look more manly that way." I don't know. Haha, if Mom says so, then so be it. I'll wear the light blue tie today, thanks. With that, the video call seemed to hang up. Gross. I let out a small voice. No, it would be weird if I didn't have a voice. It was such a shocking moment. After that, my husband continued to video call my mother-in-law every morning. By the time a month had passed, I no longer felt anything, but that did not change my perception that this was abnormal. This relationship between my husband and mother-in-law would change once we had a child together. That is what I thought. However, I was naive. When I decided to go back to my hometown to have a baby, my husband began to stay at my parents-in-law's house and spent his days having a sweet time with my mother-in-law. My parents' house was about a 2-hour drive away, so he used that as an excuse. "I'm busy this week. I was going to come over there on my day off, but my mom told me to take the day off, so I'm sorry I can't make it." He never came to check on me at all. To top it all off, I called him when I started having contractions, but he didn't show up until the next day. My husband's excuse was, "Mom told me it was a girl anyway, so there was no need to rush." I really wanted to come. But I wanted to hear what my mother had to say. That's what he said. Anyway, what my mother-in-law said came first. My wife's needs came second or third. I realized during the birth of my child that even my own child would not come to see me if my mother-in-law instructed me to. I was sure he would change when we had a child. I had thought so, but my husband was just doing his mother-in-law's bidding without any awareness of his role as a father. I chose the name of our newborn child and named her Ivy. I thought that if I left it to my husband, he would consult with my mother-in-law and name her something appropriate. I strongly felt that I had to protect Ivy. After spending a month at my parents' house after the birth, the day I finally returned home, my husband came to pick me up, but my mother-in-law was sitting next to him. Why my mother-in-law? I immediately knew the reason. Hazel, your duty is to give birth to a boy. You may have a hard time taking care of Ivy, but you need to think about your next child right away. No, it is crazy to talk to me, only a month after the birth, about our next child. My husband also said, I'd rather have a boy, too, to be honest. Girls, I don't know how to handle them. He laughed and said it as if he was denying Ivy's existence. I had nothing but anxiety about my future life. 7 years later, Ivy was in the first grade of elementary school. We had never had a child. My mother-in-law kept putting pressure on me, to the point of stressing me out. I believe that this pressure was the reason why we could not have children. Nevertheless, I had Ivy as my emotional support. She has grown up to be a kind and lovely girl. Thinking about my future, I resumed working as a web designer, which I had been doing before my marriage, 4 years ago. Since I am an individual web designer, I didn't have any work at first. Little by little, I built up a track record, and now I am busy. One day, I had a face-to-face meeting with a client that I usually communicate with via remote meeting. The meeting went unexpectedly long, and it looked like Ivy would not make it home in time. On the way home, I was descending the stairs of a pedestrian bridge in a hurry to get home, when I stepped off the stairs at a very high place. I fell to the bottom and lost consciousness. The next thing I knew, I was in a hospital bed. I was surprised to see the strange ceiling, but I quickly remembered that I had fallen and tried to get up. Hazel, did you notice? It was my husband who was by my side. You fell down the stairs and someone nearby called an ambulance. I immediately thought to myself, Ivy? Where is Ivy? I left her with my mother, so she's fine. My husband answered flatly. I can't believe I left her with that mother-in-law. Just as my mother-in-law dislikes Ivy, Ivy does not like my mother-in-law. What kind of thought process does my husband have to go through to leave Ivy with her so easily? I have to go pick Ivy up as soon as possible. As I said this, my husband confronted me with an unbelievable fact. Hazel, take a good look. Both of your legs are broken. It looks like it was broken badly and you need to have an operation. That's why you need to stay in the hospital for a month. It was a cruel sentence. Who in the world will take care of Ivy while I am in the hospital for a month? I fearfully ask my husband. Who is going to take care of Ivy while I am in the hospital for a month? Of course it's me. Who else is there? The only other person I can think of is my mother-in-law. You're going to ask your mother to help, aren't you? Well, that's just the way it is, isn't it? What's wrong with helping your mother out when I'm busy with my work? It's not just a matter of what's wrong. As I said before, my mother-in-law and Ivy are not the best of friends. And yet, I'm glad you're taking care of her, but I think it would be better to have Ivy stay with me at my parents' house. Huh? What are you saying? She's going to elementary school. There's no way I'm leaving her at your parents' house. My husband proceeded with his story in a pissed-off tone. Anyway, I will take care of Ivy. If you're worried about Ivy, why don't you just do your best to shorten your stay in the hospital as much as possible? I will do my best even without being told. Even so, there is no way that the hospital stay will be extremely shortened. I am so worried about Ivy's 1 month. During my month in the hospital, my husband came to visit me occasionally, but I did not see Ivy. I would call her once in a while. Ivy, how are you? I think I will be home soon, so please wait for me. Yes, Mom, please come home soon. She seemed somewhat listless. I worked harder than anyone else when rehabilitation started so that I could leave the hospital as soon as possible. Even so, my discharge from the hospital was shortened to only 3 days. On the day of my discharge, I asked my mother to pick me up from my parents' home, which was unreasonable. I did not want to rely on my husband or mother-in-law. When I arrived home, I found Ivy alone. Ivy! I ran over and hugged Ivy. She looks thinner than she did a month ago. I thought it was my imagination, but when I looked at Ivy more closely, I saw that her clothes were somewhat stained and her face looked a little gaunt. What is going on? Anyway, it is time to go, and I decide to prepare dinner. My mother tried to change Ivy's clothes, but all the clothes were all dirty. I had no choice but to put everything in the washing machine and start the laundry. For a while, Ivy wore my t-shirt like a dress. Dinner was ready and the 3 of us, including my mother, were about to eat it, but Ivy would not touch her food. Does it hurt anywhere? I spoke to her gently. Dad and Grandma. Ivy began to speak in a quiet voice. It was a shocking story. While I was listening to Ivy's story, my husband came home. I'm home. Hazel was home. I pulled Ivy and my mother's hand and left the house with the bare necessities: wallet, phone, and car keys. I found myself in a hurry, so I made Ivy wear sandals, but I was barefoot. My mother drove us to the police station. As soon as we arrived at the police station, we told them what happened. Ivy had been neglected. Although she managed to attend elementary school, she did not have any clean clothes because she was not allowed to wash her clothes and had to change into new clothes whenever they got dirty. The food was also terrible. My mother-in-law used to come over to cook dinner, but she only cooked for herself and my husband. She would cook breakfast on a whim only sometimes when she was in a good mood, but she would not let Chol eat it with them, and she would put her plate under the dining room table and eat on the floor. Of course, cooking breakfast never crossed my husband's mind, and as soon as he finished preparing himself, he left the house. How could he be expected to take care of Ivy? I had nothing but anger toward my mother-in-law and my husband. At the police station, as soon as they finished listening to my story, they went to my husband and mother-in-law to talk to them. My mother and I and Ivy decided to stay at a nearby business hotel that day. The next day, Ivy told me something she hadn't told me yet. Every once in a while, my dad and a woman I don't know would come over. Ivy was told to stay in her room and not to go out. A young woman. If not, that would be his cheating on me. How much more insulting do you have to be to me and Ivy? I was told that my husband and mother-in-law were being held by the police. I still did not want to go home, so I rented a weekly apartment without telling my husband and spent my time taking Ivy to and from elementary school by myself. While Ivy was at elementary school, I went to talk to the neighbor of the apartment. The neighbor was someone who knew about the rumors in the apartment, and although I normally did not have much interaction with him, I went to talk to him for advice. I knew that he knew that my husband was bringing a young woman into the apartment. He even said that he had secretly taken a picture of it. She opened the front door a little and took pictures from there. I got the photos on my phone. This should somehow prove the affair with Ivy's testimony and the photos. 3 days later, my mother-in-law and husband were taken to the police station. I received a phone call from my father-in-law. He wanted to apologize and cooperate with me. My father-in-law was basically the type of person who would not interfere with us, but I thought he was a trustworthy person. So I decided to accept his offer. We met at a coffee shop, and as soon as we met, my father-in-law got down on his knees and apologized. Look up, father-in-law. Besides, this is a coffee shop. You're disturbing the other customers. Finally, my father-in-law looked up at me and said, I'm really sorry about what my wife and son did to Ivy. I hear it's neglect. How is Ivy doing? I take her to and from school. She is eating meals little by little. Also, there is one more thing I need to tell you about Troy. I showed him the photo I had sent to my phone. Troy is having an affair with this woman. Ivy testified to this. When my father-in-law saw the picture, he was horrified. This woman and Troy. Yes, but do you know anything about this woman? This woman is my secretary. What a surprise! It seemed that my husband had found an unfaithful partner in a familiar place. I see. Father-in-law, you said on the phone yesterday that you would help us. Do you have any idea who the lawyer is? I have no intention of forgiving my mother-in-law or Troy. I smiled and said that. Of course, I'll make sure to refer you to a lawyer who specializes in this field. Is there anything else? What are you going to do with your wife? I'm going to leave my wife. I don't want to spend the rest of my life with a person who abuses her grandchild. And Troy will be fired from his job. I will also cut off the relationship between father and son. They should be punished to that extent. I see, it seems that the father-in-law is going to hunt those two down. Then so do I. With that in mind, I vowed once again to take revenge on my husbands. In the end, my husband and mother-in-law were sentenced to prison for abandonment of a person responsible for their protection. I heard that the prison term was short, but it must have been very hard on these two proud people. My husband and I divorced through an attorney while he was in prison. And when they were both released from prison after serving their sentences, they immediately received a hefty bill from their lawyer. Alimony to Ivy, medical treatment for her emotional trauma, expenses, and child support. And then there was the fee for cheating on me. In total, it must have been close to $10,000. The woman with whom my husband had an affair disappeared before he could pay her alimony, so my husband had to pay her on top of the total. My ex-husband, who was not satisfied with the situation, insisted that we go to court to fight us, but there was no lawyer to defend him, so we could not go to court and he agreed to our demands. I thought it was a waste of time and money, even though I knew it was going to happen from the beginning. My mother-in-law also told me that her divorce from my father-in-law had been finalized. My mother-in-law is also supposed to pay alimony to Ivy. I think the amount was too lenient for my mother-in-law who had suffered for Ivy for the past 7 years, but still, I think it was a reasonable amount of alimony considering her future life. After that, it seems that my mother-in-law and my ex-husband started living together. They had been protected by my father-in-law, but they lost that backing. They used to live in a big house and even in an apartment of a reasonable size, but now they are renting a cheap and small room in a ramshackle apartment. The apartment barely has a unit bath, but even so, their last remaining pride must have been shredded. My ex-husband has sent his application to several companies to pay off his debts, but none of them will hire him because of his criminal record. Also, it seems that it will be very difficult for him to get another job since he was able to get by with his father's help. Even so, the deadline for repayment of the debt is coming, so he is currently doing manual labor to make some money. My mother-in-law is also in a situation where she has to work, but she seems to be trying to cling to her ex-husband to survive. We, on the other hand, have decided to move closer to my parents' house. Ivy has to change schools, but she says, "I don't care where I go as long as I'm with my mom." I was relieved to hear that she has made friends at her new school. My work is going well and we have enough money to live with Ivy. With the help of my parents, I will love and raise Ivy as much as I can. Mom, help. I'm feeling really sick with a high fever. While I was visiting my parents to take care of my mom, I got a distress call from my 6-year-old daughter. What? Dad isn't there. I wanted to ask my husband, who should have been with her, about our daughter's condition. Dad's got a fever of 104 degrees. He's not getting out of bed. To my surprise, he was also down with a fever. I quickly explained the situation to my mom, jumped into the car, and rushed back home. However, when I got home, there was no sign of my husband who should have been asleep. And there, I was met with an unbelievable truth beyond my imagination. I'm Scarlett, 33 years old, living with my husband, Zion, who's the same age, and our 6-year-old daughter, Luna. I work from home prioritizing childcare. My husband, Zion, introduced me to a friend who said we'd get along great, and I did. We both loved gaming, which made us click instantly, leading to marriage. He's a diligent person and loves cooking, often helping around the house. Plus, ever since our daughter was born, he's been completely smitten with her, forgetting his once beloved games. Luna loves her dad so much that she's happy to go to the park with him even when I'm not around. Watching their close bond always brought a smile to my face. However, around the time Luna turned 5, Zion started acting differently. While he still took care of our daughter and did chores, he seemed absent-minded, often not really listening when spoken to. And then, this happened. "Scarlett's working from home today, right? I'll take Luna to the park." "Thanks. That helps." He left with our daughter in the car. 2 hours later, when I finished work earlier than expected, I went to the park, but they were nowhere to be found. I called Zion multiple times, but I couldn't reach him. Eventually, they came back as if nothing had happened. "Luna, where were you and what were you doing?" "We went for a drive. I waited in the car the whole time watching cartoons while Dad was busy." I was shocked not only because Zion had changed plans without telling me but also for making Luna wait in the car for so long. "Hey Zion, what were you thinking?" Well, on our way to the park, I got called into work suddenly. So, we went for a drive instead." His explanation seemed fishy. Although I felt a bit uneasy about his behavior, I let it slide since our daughter was safe and didn't press further. However, Zion's suspicious actions didn't end there. One day, when he was looking at his phone in the living room, he quickly hid the screen when I casually approached him. "What's wrong? Why are you so jumpy?" It was just a joke, but he got defensive and angry and said, "Nothing. Something's definitely different. Could he be cheating?" Such thoughts crossed my mind, but our conversations remained the same, and I still felt his love, so I dismissed those suspicions. It's troubling. My usually kind husband started raising his voice when anything bothered him. On top of that, he began going out more on weekends, saying he was busy with work. "Working again this weekend?" "Yes, sorry. I used to take weekends off because of our little one. But now that she's 6, I need to make up for lost time." So, a coworker had been covering for his job on weekends because of our young daughter. It made sense when I thought about it, although I had felt uneasy about his changes. One day, I got a call that my mom had fallen at home and hurt her back. She'd act quickly to avoid worrying us. Unable to wait, I consulted my husband. "We're fine here, so go stay with your mom for a while. I'll be okay with Dad here." So, I ended up going back to my parents' place until my mom could move around on her own. When I called my daughter that night, her voice said, "Don't worry, Mom," gave me a huge sense of relief. Luckily, there was nothing wrong with my mother's bones, and she'd be fine as long as she rested. She could come home in about a week. However, by the next evening, Luna seemed to have lost her previous energy. "Dad's here, so I'm okay." Cough cough. "Are you catching a cold, Luna? Tell Dad and get under the covers to stay warm." "Okay, got it." She still seemed lively, but her cough worried me a bit. Then, the next day around 3 p.m. I was pondering that when my daughter called. Guess what? Luna has a fever of 40 degrees. And on top of that, even my husband, Zion, has a 40-degree fever and is knocked out. When I filled my mom in on the situation over the phone, she said, "I'm getting better now, so you better head home right now," and gave me a little push. So, I quickly hopped into my car and raced home. When I finally got there and burst into my daughter's room, there was Luna, with a bright red face, breathing heavily. "Sorry I'm late. You're gonna be okay." Even though she was suffering from a fever, she noticed me and gave a weak nod. Seeing her in such a pitiful state made me choke back tears. After making sure Luna was okay for the time being, I decided to check on Zion. My daughter said he should be down with a fever too. Heading to our bedroom, I noticed the blankets were oddly puffed up. When I pulled back the covers, I found pillows lined up to make it look like someone was sleeping there. Luna must have thought Zion was sleeping. If that's the case, where did he go? Scarlett couldn't find Zion anywhere in the house. It felt as if he'd vanished like a fox. Though I felt strange in my gut, my daughter was my top priority. Ignoring my bad thoughts, I rushed her to the hospital. Luckily, the doctor said she wasn't seriously ill and sent us home with fever reducers and cold medicine. I'm glad Mom's back. I'm not going anywhere else, so rest and get some sleep. Luna squeezed my hand, looking relieved, and gave me a smile. I felt deeply relieved that she was okay. Once I made sure my daughter was peacefully asleep, I started looking into Zion's whereabouts again. I tried calling his phone, but predictably, it went straight to voicemail. While searching his room for clues, I found a piece of paper tossed carelessly aside. It was a bank statement showing he'd withdrawn roughly $5,000. What's this? Isn't he using this for online gaming? Worse, that account was meant to save money for our daughter's future. Half of the withdrawn amount had been paid to a gaming company. I was shocked he'd dip into our child's savings for his hobby, and leaving our sick daughter behind was unforgivable. And what did he use the other half of the $5,000 for? I opened Zion's computer to find he'd been playing online slots. Could he have started gambling real money after getting bored with online gaming? As I pondered this unexpected turn of events, a memory flashed in my mind. The next morning, I decided to ask my daughter, who was feeling better. "Hey, was this the kind of place you went on a drive with Daddy?" I quickly showed her a sign with the words on it. Yes. It said casino. Just as I suspected. I remembered my daughter saying, "Pa, Chi, I forgot," when Zion took her to the park for a drive. He must have been gambling while making her wait in the car. With this, all of Zion's suspicious actions made sense. He must have hidden his phone screen out of fear of being caught up in his gaming. His overtime work was probably just an excuse to wander around and lie to his family. Leaving our sick daughter in the car for hours, putting her in danger twice was unacceptable. I won't forgive this. I'll make him pay. I vowed revenge against my husband. First, I immediately contacted a friend who worked with Zion to confirm his overtime claims. As I suspected, the company policy was to encourage everyone to take weekends off. My friend reluctantly informed me that Zion had requested a day off due to our daughter's illness, but he was absent without notice today. This had become an issue within the company. As I suspected, he's been playing around freely. That night, I waited with frustration beside my still feverish daughter for Zion, but he never came home. Searching further, I found several loan cards from consumer finance companies in Zion's suit pocket. Unbelievable. He's not only drained our daughter's savings, but he's also in debt. My trust in Zion hit rock bottom, and my anger was unstoppable. Unaware of all this, Zion came home cheerfully that night. He said cheerfully, "Hey Luna, it's Daddy," and came into the living room. And he was surprised to see me. I wanted to confront him right then and there, but I didn't want my daughter to see me like that, so I forced myself to stay calm. My mother is fine now, so I'm back. He visibly relaxed at my gentle tone. "Ha, I know everything. You'll see soon." I put my daughter to bed as usual and returned to the living room where Zion was lounging on the couch, watching TV. Seeing him, my frustration peaked, and I approached him, standing firm. "Where were you, leaving Luna suffering with a high fever?" I spoke as if my voice was chillingly low and reflecting my emotions. Zion seemed taken aback by my intensity, almost slipping off the sofa. Though he seemed intent on playing it cool, I wasn't having any of it. "What were you thinking? What if something happened to Luna?" "Kids get fevers, it's normal. Why are you making such a fuss?" He was upset that he didn't try to butter up, and his lack of concern only fueled my anger further. Then there's no need for restraint on my end either. This is the beginning of a serious investigation. What's this all about? I slammed the bank statement in front of him, questioning what he spent such a large sum on, and he clearly didn't like it. "It's just some fun money. Besides, it's money I earned, so what's the problem? That was money we've been saving bit by bit for Luna's future. Give it back now." "I don't care about that. We'll just save up again." Even mentioning our daughter didn't bring any remorse from him. So, I gave him my next card. "And what's this? You borrowed money, didn't you?" My husband, presented with a consumer finance card, continued to sweat profusely but didn't back down. "Just borrowed a little. I'll pay it back soon." I kept pressing, but he wouldn't confess, so I decided to cut to the chase. "I've heard from someone who's seen you at the arcade or casino parlors. I know you've been hanging out there." Clearly, he hadn't expected to be found out. His eyes started to dart around. "And I've heard you've been taking weekends off too. You've deceived me." Accused like that, he seemed at a loss for words and clicked his tongue in annoyance. At this point, any affection or sympathy I had for him was completely gone. "I can't be with you anymore. Let's get a divorce." "Fine, whatever, we can divorce." Zion agreed to the divorce without much fuss, saying, "Bring it on." So, the divorce is finalized. "Oh, by the way, didn't you skip work without permission yesterday?" How did you know?" "It was just one time. Skipping work and goofing off. The company knows all about it." You can't get away with bad behavior. With that, his face turned pale in an instant. And not taking care of our sick daughter. I've reported that to your company too. Suddenly, his confident demeanor disappeared, replaced by tears as he clung to me. Can't you tell them it was a mistake? Please. At this point, his audacity to ask for help was just too much. I looked down at him coldly, and he shamelessly started to kneel. Please, don't divorce me. I'll quit gambling and gaming. I'll stop hanging out. I can't be with someone who risks our child's life not once, but twice. Don't say that. Even though he pleaded, I felt disgusted. I looked straight at him and said firmly, "We're definitely getting a divorce. And I'll be asking for substantial compensation, so brace yourself. That's not fair." Realizing there was no turning back from my determination, he broke down in tears. A month later, the divorce was finalized, and I claimed $35,000 in damages, including the depleted savings intended for Luna. Zion left his job because word got out about him leaving our sick child to go out and play. It was also discovered he had $3 million in debts from consumer loans. Now, I've heard he's working day and night in manual labor to repay his debts and compensation. Luna and I started anew near my parents' place. Her smiles are more frequent now, and I truly believe My name is Linda Williams. At 62, I'm sometimes surprised to see how much I've aged when I look in the mirror. But in my heart, I still feel young. 5 years ago, I lost my beloved husband George, and since then, I've been living alone in this big house. Located in a quiet suburb of New England on Maple Street, this house is filled with our memories. As I gaze at the trees turning red and yellow, I fondly recall the days I spent with George. To combat loneliness, I tutor neighborhood children twice a week. They call me Mrs. Williams or Aunt Linda, and their bright smiles encourage me daily. Teaching has become one of my reasons for living. My son Kevin is 34. He works for an IT company and lives in the next town. He's intelligent and dedicated to his work. Perhaps because of that, he's so busy that we don't get to see each other often. He got married 3 years ago, and my adorable grandson Liam was born. Liam is already 4 years old. He's full of energy and my pride and joy. To be honest, I'm not very close with Kevin's wife, Stephanie. She's beautiful and well-educated, but there's something about her that makes it hard for me to warm up to her. We only see each other about once every 6 months. I feel reluctant to visit without a reason, which makes it sad that I can't see my grandson more often. Still, seeing Kevin happy puts me at ease as a mother. Stephanie takes good care of Liam and seems to be raising him almost single-handedly while Kevin is busy with work. I'm grateful to her for that. At dusk, I go out to the garden to tend to my roses and think about my family. Although I feel lonely without George, I have Kevin and Liam. Thinking about that warms my heart. Tomorrow, I have a tutoring session after a long while. As I imagine the smiles of my students, I start preparing dinner. After finishing my tutoring work and returning home, I found a new message on my smartphone. It was from my son Kevin. When I opened it, there was a photo of my cute grandson Liam's birthday party attached. Liam is already 4 years old. Happy birthday. Can I come visit with a present? Kevin quickly replied, please come anytime, Mom. My heart was filled with joy. I'm really happy to see Liam. But at the same time, I'm a little worried about the awkwardness with Stephanie. Still, the joy of seeing my grandson outweighs that. A week later, I bought Liam's birthday present and visited Kevin's house. At the big shopping mall, I chose a toy of a character that Liam might like. In addition, I bought some local specialty sweets that Kevin has liked since he was young. When the door opened, Liam came running towards me shouting, Grandma. Seeing his smile makes my heart melt. Happy birthday, Liam. Just as I was about to hug him, Stephanie approached, offering me slippers while pulling Liam away from me. Liam, step back. Welcome, mother-in-law. It's been a while. Thank you for coming today. She had a smile on her face, but her words lacked warmth. Stephanie, excuse me. It's been a while. Kevin too. I pretended not to notice her attitude and headed to the living room. I gave the sweets to Stephanie and the wrapped toy to Liam. When Liam opened the wrapping paper and saw the contents, he started jumping with joy. Wow, it's the toy I wanted. Thank you, Grandma. He immediately took out the toy and started playing with it. Mom, Liam is really happy. Thank you, Kevin said. It's fine, we don't get to meet often anyway. While watching my grandson having fun, the three of us had a bit of conversation. However, Kevin's phone rang in the middle, and he said, it's a work call, excuse me for a moment, and left his seat. You're still busy as ever. Stephanie, thank you for always taking care of Kevin and Liam. When I said this to Stephanie, I was surprised to see her expression change. She was glaring at me with a stern face. Mother-in-law, could you please refrain from giving Liam character toys? Stephanie stared at me with a cold, expressionless voice. At this moment, I strongly felt the discomfort of being in my son's house. But I thought I had to overcome this situation for my grandson, and for my son. A few days later, I took advantage of a holiday to go shopping at the local shopping mall, Oakwood Plaza. I was planning to look for new gardening supplies during the end of summer sale. As I was walking near the large fountain in the center of the mall, I suddenly heard a familiar voice. Grandma. When I turned around, there stood Liam. His ponytail was bouncing. And next to him was Stephanie. Oh, Liam. Stephanie. What a surprise to meet you here. Liam tried to run towards me, but Stephanie tightly grabbed his hand. Liam, don't run. Stephanie's voice had a hint of sternness. Is Kevin working today too? I asked, and Stephanie's expression tensed a bit. Yes, he's on a business trip. Her way of answering seemed somewhat awkward. Where were you heading? We were going to the department store in front of the station. Stephanie's voice seemed to tremble a little. Since I was going in the same direction, I suggested, I'm going the same way. Shall we go together? Are you shopping for something for Liam? Suddenly, Stephanie's expression changed. Mother-in-law, please stop. I don't want you to come along. I was just. That's excessive interference. Don't decide on your own. Overwhelmed by Stephanie's intensity, I was at a loss for words. At that moment, Liam said with a smile, Grandma, we're going to Olivia's house. Liam nodded. Oh, so you're going to a friend's house? Yes, that's right. Stephanie reluctantly admitted, but her attitude seemed increasingly strange. I see. You could have just said so from the beginning. I thought, but perhaps it would be intrusive for a mother-in-law to accompany them when visiting a friend. Well then, take care. Yes, I understand. Come on, Liam, let's go. Stephanie hurriedly pulled Liam's hand and left. As I watched them walk away, I felt a nagging sensation in my chest. I had a feeling that there was something hidden in Stephanie's attitude. On the way home, I kept thinking about that incident. Stephanie's reaction wasn't normal. And the name Olivia bothers me. Is it Liam's friend? Or? I shook my head, trying to shake off unnecessary imagination. Surely, I must be overthinking. A few months later, I suddenly received a phone call from Kevin. Mom, we're moving at the end of next month. It's for work. Oh, is that so? Are you going farther away than now? It's a bit farther, but still a distance where you can come visit anytime if you want. Thinking that we already don't have many opportunities to meet, and now they'll be even further away, I felt a bit lonely. I see, at least let me help with the move. Wanting to be useful one last time, I asked about my son's moving schedule. Thanks, Mom. But it's okay. We're leaving everything to the moving company. I felt a little sad at Kevin's words, but I understand his consideration. I see. But if there's anything I can help with, let me know. I can help organize Liam's things, for example. Got it. Thanks. After hanging up, I stared out the window, thinking about the upcoming changes. Liam, my precious granddaughter. It's hard to think about the distance between us growing. But if it's for Kevin's work, I suppose it can't be helped. A few days later, Kevin sent me the details of the move. It includes the date, new address, and plans for moving day. I read it over and over, trying to commit it to memory. As the moving day approached, I kept thinking about what I could do to help. In the end, I was asked to help with cleaning the day before the move. Mom, it would be helpful if you could come in the morning tomorrow. When Kevin said this, I happily agreed. Of course. I'd be glad to come. Can I help with Liam's room too? Oh, that would be great. Liam's things aren't packed at all yet. The next day, I woke up early, prepared, and headed to Kevin's house. When I arrived, there was already a large moving truck parked in front of the house. When I opened the front door, the inside was already full of cardboard boxes. In the living room, Kevin and Stephanie were busy sorting belongings. "Good morning, Kevin." "Stephanie." "Mom, thanks for coming." Kevin greeted me with a smile. Stephanie, on the other hand, just gave a slight nod and immediately returned to packing. "Where's Liam?" "He's playing upstairs." "Mom, could you help clean up Liam's room?" "Of course. I'll go right away." I went upstairs and headed to Liam's room. When I opened the door, I saw Liam playing with dolls. "Grandma." Liam ran up to me happily. "Good morning, Liam. Let's work hard on preparing for the move, okay?" "Yeah." I started organizing Liam's belongings with her. As I packed toys and clothes into cardboard boxes, I tried to cherish this time with my granddaughter. "Liam, are you excited about the new house?" "Yes, but will I not be able to see you anymore, Grandma?" Seeing Liam's worried face, my heart tightened. "Of course not. Grandma will definitely come to visit. Besides, we can talk on the phone, right?" "Really? Do you promise?" "Of course. I promise." Liam's face brightened. We continued packing, but in my heart, I felt a little anxious about how this change would affect our family. On moving day, I headed to my son's house as promised. However, when I arrived, there was no moving truck or any sign of people in front of the house. Thinking it was strange, I rang the doorbell several times, but there was no response. "That's odd." Feeling uneasy, I decided to use the spare key Kevin had given me to enter. When I opened the door, an astonishing sight greeted me. The house was completely empty, as if no one had ever lived there. Only nail marks remained on the walls, and dust was floating in the rooms. "What's going on?" As I walked around the house in confusion, I encountered a breathtaking scene when I entered the living room. In the corner of the room, a little girl was sitting huddled up. And she was handcuffed. "It can't be." "Liam." I hurriedly tried to approach the girl, but she recoiled in fear. A foul odor lingered in the room, and half-eaten bread and empty water bottles were scattered on the floor. The curtains were closed, and the girl's figure was dimly visible in the dark room. With trembling hands, I called Kevin. "Kevin. What's going on?" "Liam is." "Huh? Mom, what are you talking about?" Kevin's voice was filled with confusion. "I'm at your house right now. Liam is handcuffed." "Wait, Mom. We've already moved. Liam is with us." Eh. Kevin's words made my mind go blank. "Mom, are you okay? What's wrong?" "But Liam is here." Perhaps sensing my confusion, Kevin spoke to me gently. "Mom, that's not Liam. Is there perhaps some other child there?" Brought back to reality by his words, I took a good look at the girl again. Indeed, she looks very similar to Liam, but upon closer inspection, she seems a bit older. "I'm sorry, Kevin. I got confused." "It's okay, Mom. But if there's a child there, you might want to contact the police." "Yes, I'll do that." Sorry for worrying you. After hanging up, I turned my attention back to the girl. She's not Liam. But who is she? And why is she here? You're not Liam, are you? The girl remained silent, looking at me with frightened eyes. It's okay, don't be afraid. My name is Linda. What's your name? After a moment of silence, I heard a faint voice. Olivia. Olivia. That's a nice name. How old are you? Olivia held up 5 fingers. 5 years old, I see. Why are you here? Olivia hesitated a bit before starting to talk. She told me that until a week ago, she had been living with her father, but suddenly her father disappeared, and her mother appeared and brought her here in the middle of the night. Mom said to stay here. So, as I listened to Olivia's story, anger began to well up inside me. I was cold, hungry, and scared all alone. As I hugged the crying Olivia, I felt like my heart was about to burst. To do such a thing to a child. This isn't human. Who on earth? Trembling with anger, I asked Olivia for her mother's name, and she finally uttered it. At that moment, everything connected. With shaking hands, I took out my phone and contacted a certain person. After explaining the situation in detail, the person on the other end of the phone, though at a loss for words, promised to come right away. After that, I took Olivia to the hospital. I had her examined by a doctor to check her nutritional status and health condition. Fortunately, there didn't seem to be any serious health issues, but I was told she would need mental care. Olivia, rest at the hospital for a while. I'll be back soon. Olivia looked anxious but nodded slightly. After leaving the hospital, I returned to Kevin's empty house. And I decided to hide and wait in the closet. I'll definitely uncover the truth. In the darkness, I made a firm resolution. And I waited for the sound of the front door opening. Around noon the next day, I heard the sound of the front door key turning. I held my breath in the closet, watching the situation closely. I brought food. Stephanie entered the living room carrying a supermarket plastic bag. However, only the handcuffs remained there, and Olivia was nowhere to be seen. I could see Stephanie's face turn pale. Hey, Olivia. Where are you? Answer me. Yes, Olivia was the name of the child Stephanie had said was Liam's friend. Olivia had told me everything. As I watched Stephanie desperately searching around the house, I slowly came out of the closet. Are you looking for Olivia? She's not here anymore. W.H. Mother-in-law. Stephanie, who had returned with a confused expression, froze when she saw me. I found her. She's being properly taken care of. Stephanie, realizing she had been found out, clicked her tongue and seemed to be thinking about something. Why did you do this? Tell me the truth. I tried to speak gently, but Stephanie suddenly broke down crying. Actually, before I met Kevin, I was dating a man named Stanton, and I had Olivia out of wedlock. Stephanie started talking with her head down, looking pained. But Stanton became violent, so I broke up with him. I see. That must have been hard. And then, in the end, I ended up taking care of Olivia alone. I didn't want to let her go. But I had no income, and she was forcibly taken away from me. Stephanie continued, speaking through tears. Even after marrying Kevin, I sometimes went to Stanton's apartment. I was worried about Olivia. On the day Liam said he was playing with Olivia, they were actually heading to Stanton's house. It seemed she was creating opportunities for Liam and Olivia to play together like siblings. They're both only children. I thought it would be good for them. However, a week ago, Stanton contacted her and then disappeared. His apartment was also terminated, and Olivia had nowhere to go. Stephanie had no choice but to bring Olivia to this house, where the contract was still valid until the end of the month. I swear, I had no contact with Stanton after marrying Kevin. But Olivia is still a precious child to me. As I listened silently, Stephanie looked up with teary eyes. But I couldn't destroy my family with Kevin and Liam. As a mother, you understand, right? Stephanie collapsed to the floor, crying like a mother thinking of her child. Hey, you said Olivia is a precious child, right? Yes, of course. I looked down at Stephanie with cold eyes and said, then why did you handcuff her and put her in diapers? Why did you call feeding her baiting? That's... Stephanie's expression, which had been crying like a tragic heroine, suddenly hardened. I thought you were a devoted mother, but is it okay to treat a child like this? Even so. She avoided my gaze, sweat dripping from her forehead. What's this? I took out my cell phone and showed Stephanie a video. It showed Liam and Olivia playing in front of an apartment with Stanton's surname on the nameplate. Moreover, Stephanie's voice could be heard from inside the apartment. You took Liam to Stanton's house to have a relationship with him, and abandoned Olivia. Isn't that right? This is. The night before, I had tracked down the apartment where Olivia had been living and asked the neighbors for information. One concerned resident had recorded the situation. Can you still say you cherish your child? You were having a relationship with Stanton, weren't you? Stephanie turned bright red and started trembling. Mother-in-law. We were a happy family, weren't we? Don't ruin that. Please don't tell my husband. I pushed away Stephanie as she desperately clung to me. Why should I keep quiet? Because he is. Just as Stephanie was about to say something, the balcony door opened, and Kevin was standing there. Because I'm a lawyer. Kevin. Stephanie finally collapsed to her knees. Yes, my son Kevin is a lawyer. She gaped in shock for a moment, but suddenly revealed her true nature and glared at me. Why is Kevin here? Did you snitch on me? As Stephanie, red-faced, tried to lunge at me, Kevin stopped her. I heard everything. You've been betraying me all this time, haven't you? That's not true. Listen. Now she clings to Kevin. Stanton is just a good-for-nothing who doesn't even work. I was tricked. In a panic, Stephanie blurted out something unbelievable. That man is just good in bed. You're a high-earning lawyer. You're the suitable husband. Kevin looked at Stephanie with an unbearable expression. I couldn't forgive the affair alone, but handcuffing a child. You're inhuman. I can't forgive this. Don't say that. Stephanie screamed like a child and started to thrash about, while Kevin looked at her with a disgusted expression. Stephanie, we're getting a divorce. I'll take custody. And I've already called the police, so stay put. Everything I've built is falling apart. It's all your fault. If only you hadn't found that child. Finally cornered, Stephanie pulled a knife out of her bag. Then, she ran towards me. Mom, watch out. At that moment, I skillfully dodged Stephanie. She yelled, "Damn it," and lunged at me again, but I dodged once more. Stop running away, you old hag. On her third attack, I knocked the knife out of her hand. Did you forget that I run a self-defense class and am a martial arts expert? I pinned Stephanie to the floor, and she groaned in pain. Then, the sirens of the police Kevin had called approached. Let go of me. Someone who shows no signs of remorse must face punishment for their crimes. Ignoring Stephanie's screams, I continued to hold her down. Eventually, the police arrived, and Stephanie was taken away screaming. Kevin and I just silently watched her being led away. I submitted photographic evidence and gave my testimony. It was discovered that Stephanie had also brought tools to dispose of Olivia. I had been wondering what she was planning to do after handcuffing her, but after hearing from the police, I was horrified to learn she had thought that far ahead. In the end, Stephanie was arrested, and her affair partner Stanton was also questioned. Kevin and Stephanie's divorce was finalized, and Kevin gained custody of Liam. Kevin said he would claim damages from both Stephanie and Stanton, and make sure Stephanie pays child support. Stephanie, having lost everything, will likely face a harsh life even after being released. Olivia was taken in by Stanton's parents. When they came to pick her up, they seemed like decent people unlike Stanton, so I'm relieved for now. At Kevin's request, I moved in with him to help raise Liam. At first, Liam was confused by the change in environment, but gradually warmed up to me, and now I'm even teaching him martial arts. Grandma, I want to get stronger. Every time Liam says this with shining eyes, I feel happy. Yes, Liam. It's important to be strong, but don't forget to be kind too. Okay, I understand. I'll be kind to Olivia too. Liam and Olivia still play together occasionally. Their bond seems to be growing purely, transcending the problems of adults. One day, Kevin came home from work and said to me, "Mom, thank you so much. I don't know what would have happened to our family without you." It's only natural, Kevin. We're family. I hugged my son. Tears were glistening in his eyes. But, Mom, I can't forgive Stephanie. Even when she gets out of prison, I'll never let her see Liam. I understand. Liam's safety is the most important thing. That night, I went out to the garden and looked up at the starry sky. I remembered George. Hey, George. Our family has been through a lot, but we're managing somehow. You're watching over us too, aren't you? A gentle breeze caressed my cheek. It was as if George was whispering, "Everything will be all right. There will surely be more difficulties ahead. But I believe we can overcome them." Watching over Liam's growth, praying for Olivia's happiness, and continuing to support Kevin. That is my mission now. Family bonds are sometimes tested. However, with truth and love, any difficulty can be overcome. That's what I believe. And when all the wounds have healed someday, I'm sure we will have become a stronger, kinder family. Dreaming of that day, I'm determined to do my best tomorrow too. To protect my granddaughter's smile, and for the happiness of our family. The morning sunlight gently woke me as it streamed through the window. Gazing at Asher's sleeping face beside me, I felt a warmth in my heart. At 36, his hair was starting to show some gray, but he was still as handsome as ever. Married for 7 years, I couldn't help but feel grateful for such blissful mornings. "Mama, are you awake?" A small voice called out, and Liam's face peeked out from the edge of the bed. Our 5-year-old son's eyes always sparkled with curiosity. "Good morning, Liam. Today's going to be exciting, isn't it?" I replied, and Liam happily bounced up and down. Our weekend camping trip was starting today. It was Liam's first real camping experience, and he had been so excited last night that he'd had trouble falling asleep. After breakfast, we began our preparations. As a psychology professor at the university, I was determined to forget about work and enjoy this family time. Asher, too, was setting aside his architectural firm work to help organize our belongings. "Liam, did you pack the bug spray?" Asher called out. "Yep, it's in my backpack," Liam replied energetically. Watching our son grow, I couldn't help but feel how quickly time was passing. It seemed like just yesterday he was a baby, and now he could pack his own things. As we loaded the car, I exchanged a smile with Asher. Without words, there was a deep bond between us as a couple. "Mama, can we go in the river as soon as we get to the campsite?" Liam asked. "Well, we'll need to set up the tent first. But after that, it should be fine," I answered, and Liam nodded contentedly. After a 2-hour drive, we finally arrived at the campsite. As soon as we stepped out of the car, fresh air filled our lungs. Looking around, we were surrounded by a beautiful landscape of dense forest. "Wow, amazing!" Liam's exclamation rang out. While Asher set up the tent, I decided to explore the surroundings with Liam. His small hand gripped mine tightly. In that warmth, I felt the joy of being a mother. We could hear the babbling of a stream, and Liam's eyes lit up. "Mama, there it is. Let's hurry." Watching my son run as lightly as a young deer, I hurried after him. When we reached the riverside, Liam took off his shoes and cautiously dipped his feet into the water. "It's cold. But it feels good." His innocent smile made me smile too. Asher joined us, and the three of us enjoyed playing in the river. Liam running around splashing water, Asher chasing him, and me watching over them. I couldn't help but wish these happy moments could last forever. As evening fell, we gathered around the campfire for dinner. The sweet scent of roasting marshmallows wafted through the air as Liam excitedly talked about his favorite online game, Monster Hunter Kids. "Dad, Mom, I'm definitely going to get the legendary sword on my next adventure." "That's great. Good luck, Liam," Asher said, gently patting our son's head. Under the starry sky, our family conversation flowed freely. I was reminded once again how precious these moments are. As bedtime approached, we were spreading out sleeping bags in the tent when Liam suddenly cried out, "Oh no! Mr. Bear is missing." It was his favorite stuffed animal. Seeing tears welling up in Liam's eyes, Asher stood up. "It's okay, Dad will go look for it." "Liam, want to come along?" "Yes." As I watched the two of them leave the tent, I continued preparing the sleeping bags. In the night's stillness, only the sound of insects could be heard. Just as I sensed something wasn't quite right, a sharp scream pierced the night sky. I rushed out of the tent to see Asher running back, his face pale with fear I had never seen before. "Emily! Liam is gone." The moment I heard those words, it felt like my world had stopped. My mind went blank, and I struggled to breathe. I tried to ask, "What do you mean?" but no sound came out. I grabbed Asher's shoulders, desperately trying to get an explanation. But seeing the despair and confusion in his eyes, I realized the worst had happened. Our beloved son had disappeared into this dark forest. From that moment on, our peaceful family life was painted over with fear and anxiety. "Liam! Liam!" My screams echoed through the night forest. I called until my throat hurt, but there was no response. Asher and I ran frantically through the forest with flashlights in hand. We stumbled over branches and rocks at our feet, but we couldn't stop. "Did you check over there?" Asher's voice was tinged with panic. "Yes, but we still haven't looked further in." My words trailed off. The fear was making my mind go blank. People from nearby campsites, having learned of the situation, came to help. Strangers with flashlights ventured into the forest. Their lights illuminated the spaces between trees, casting eerie shadows. "Liam! Liam, where are you?" Various voices echoed through the forest. The campground manager joined in, giving efficient search instructions with an area map in hand. However, as time passed, our anxiety only grew. Even after dawn broke, Liam was still nowhere to be found. My body swayed from fatigue and lack of sleep, but I couldn't rest. Asher's face was covered in stubble, his eyes bloodshot. I'm sure I looked just as haggard. The police arrived just after daybreak. A specialized team with search dogs joined in, and the search entered a new phase. The barking of the dogs echoed through the forest, giving us a momentary spark of hope. However, it was in vain, and no decisive clues were found. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, a young police officer, approached us. Can you tell us more about the situation? The police interrogation began. We explained our actions in detail since arriving at the campsite. As I spoke, I felt my throat go dry. Asher offered me some water, but it was hard to swallow. We have to consider the possibility of abduction. The words of a seasoned detective made my heart nearly stop. Did you notice anyone suspicious? I tried desperately to remember, but my mind was blank. Asher held my hand. That warmth gave me a slight sense of comfort. By the time the sun was high in the sky, the media had descended upon us. Camera flashes blinked, and microphones were thrust towards us. Can you describe your son's features? What was he wearing last? Do you have any message for the kidnappers? Questions came in rapid succession. I tried to answer, but the words caught in my throat. Asher stepped forward protectively and briefly explained the situation. Seeing him like this, I was reminded once again of my husband's strength. As the search continued, we were urged to rest in a makeshift tent. Even lying down, I couldn't close my eyes. Liam's smiling face appeared and disappeared behind my eyelids. "We'll find him," Asher whispered. But there was no confidence in his voice. On the third day of the search, the police informed us. "We'll be ending the large-scale search today." The moment I heard those words, something inside me crumbled. Asher embraced me. In his arms, the tears I had been holding back finally flowed. "We'll continue the investigation," the detective said. "Please go home and rest." The car ride home was enveloped in a heavy silence. The scenery flowing past the window felt like a different world. When we arrived home, bouquets of flowers and encouraging cards left by neighbors were lined up at the entrance. As we entered the house, silence enveloped us. We climbed the stairs and stopped in front of Liam's room door. I put my hand on the doorknob but didn't have the courage to open it. Asher gently placed his hand on my back and slowly opened the door. As we stepped into the room, we could feel Liam's presence. His favorite superhero figurines were lined up on the bed. On the desk was a half-colored picture. On the wall hung a photo of the three of us at an amusement park. I sat on the bed, hugging Liam's pillow. I could faintly smell my son's scent. "Where are you, Liam?" My unvoiced question was absorbed into the quiet room. Asher sat next to me and put his arm around my shoulders. We sat in silence, staring at the empty bed. The setting sun through the window dyed the room red. Would we ever hear our son's laughter in this room again? Would there be a day when we could give him a goodnight kiss? As such thoughts raced through my mind, we couldn't move, just feeling the passage of time. The reality of Liam's absence. It was too cruel and hard to accept. But we can't give up hope. We will definitely find him. That determination quietly but strongly sprouted in my heart. The morning sun streaming through the window announced the start of a new day. But for me, it was just the beginning of another day without Liam. I didn't even have the energy to get out of bed. I could hear Asher starting to get ready next to me. He was still an early riser as always. "Breakfast." Asher's voice finally made me lift my heavy body. "Not hungry," I answered shortly. Asher seemed about to say something, but in the end, he left the room in silence. 3 years ago, when Liam disappeared, our lives changed completely. On the surface, we might seem to have returned to normalcy. But in our hearts, we're still searching for Liam, forever 5 years old. When I went down to the kitchen, Asher was already prepared to leave. "I'll be late again today," he said, leaving the house. I heard the door close before I could respond. In the past, Asher would always kiss me before going to work. Now, we barely exchange words. He's escaping reality by immersing himself in work. He stays at his architectural firm until late every night, only returning home in the early hours. I'm on leave from the university. As a psychology professor, I used to teach students about the human mind, but now I can't even control my own heart. On my desk in the study, there are piles of papers and lecture notes. Every time I look at them, I feel a sense of emptiness. In the afternoon, I try to read a paper at my desk, but I can't concentrate. The letters in front of me seem to dance. I sigh and look out the window. Neighborhood children are playing in the park. The sight makes my chest tighten. In the evening, I received a call from Asher. "It's Liam's birthday today," his voice was low and heavy. "Yes, I know," I replied. "I'll come home early." After hanging up, I looked at the clock. Already 8 years old. I can't believe 3 years have passed. When Asher came home, we entered Liam's room together. We've barely touched this room since that day. Toys and books remain where Liam last left them. We take out a photo album and sit on the sofa. With each page we turn, young Liam's smiling face looks back at us. Liam playing in the park, Liam riding a bicycle for the first time, Liam excitedly opening presents on Christmas. Remember his face at this moment? Asher says softly. Yes, tears well up. He looked so happy. Asher puts his arm around my shoulders. In this warmth after so long, the emotions I've been holding back overflow. We cry together, embracing each other. Even without words, there's a faint comfort in sharing this sorrow. As the night deepens, Asher, exhausted, heads to the bedroom first. I remain alone in the living room. I pick up Liam's tablet. When I turn it on, a familiar wallpaper appears. It's a picture of a superhero. I gently stroke the screen with my finger. Suddenly, a notification sound rings out, making me jump. Looking at the screen, it was a notification from Monster Hunter Kids, Liam's favorite online game. With trembling fingers, I opened the app. There was an unbelievable message. "Mom, help me. I'm here. The park with the red slide." My heart starts beating wildly. Is this real? Or is it someone's cruel prank? Asher. I cry out involuntarily. I rush up the stairs and open the bedroom door. What's wrong? Asher sits up, startled. Look, I hold out the tablet. Asher squints and reads the message. His expression changes. This is. Asher is at a loss for words. It might be Liam, my voice is trembling. We stare at the screen together, thinking about what to do next. A small spark of hope that had been lost for 3 years began to light up in our hearts. At this moment, it felt like we sensed the arrival of spring after a long winter. Without waiting for dawn, we contacted the police. After explaining the situation to the sleepy officer on duty, we were told that a cybercrime division representative would be dispatched immediately. As the sun was rising, a young officer in uniform and a middle-aged detective in a suit arrived. Their serious expressions mixed with our hope and anxiety. "This message, it might really be from your son," the detective said. My heart raced at those words. The cybercrime experts began carefully examining the tablet. Only the sound of typing on keyboards echoed in the silent living room. Asher and I watched their every move. "It will take some time to identify the source," the young officer said apologetically. "Can you wait a few days? We know all too well the pain of waiting. But now, there's hope." Just that made our hearts feel a little lighter. A few days later, we received the long-awaited call. "Mr. and Mrs. Brown," the detective's voice on the phone was tinged with excitement. "We've identified the source of the message." We immediately headed to the police station. There, we were told surprising news. "The source is near the park where you had a picnic 3 years ago." It was the moment when the meaning of "the park with the red slide" became clear. The red slide where Liam had been playing enthusiastically that day. To think it was in such a distant place. "We'll go right away," Asher's voice held no hesitation. I nodded. We returned home and hurriedly packed our bags. As I stuffed clothes into a bag, various emotions washed over me. Expectation, anxiety, and fear. We got in the car, and a long journey began. Watching the scenery flow past the window, the agony of the past 3 years came flooding back. "Remember?" Asher said quietly. "When Liam almost fell from that slide, and you rushed to catch him?" "Yes," I smiled. I can't forget his smile at that moment. As our conversation progressed, I felt the emotional distance between us gradually closing. The hardships we've overcome together, and now, the hope we share. At dusk, we finally arrived at our destination. The park we once visited as a family seemed smaller than I remembered. But that red slide was still there. My heart started beating faster. Is Liam here? Or is another disappointment waiting for us? We walked around the park, carefully checking every corner. As we approached the playground area, we saw a boy playing on the slide. At that moment, it felt like time had stopped. The boy's back looked just like Liam's. The same brown hair, the same height. "Liam." My voice came out involuntarily. The boy turned around. But the face was that of a stranger's child. A moment of hope, followed by deep disappointment. Asher put his arm around my shoulders. Even without words, that warmth was comforting. "Excuse me, who are you?" We turned towards the gentle voice to see a woman standing there. Probably that boy's mother. At that moment, my eyes were fixed on the woman's face. A familiar face. But where had I seen it? I felt Asher's body stiffen. He seemed to have noticed too. Zoe? Asher's voice trembled. The woman, Zoe's expression changed. Surprise and fear. Asher. It can't be. Memories from the past came flooding back like a tidal wave. Asher and Zoe in college. Their relationship. And then, my meeting with Asher. What kind of developments would this chance reunion bring? Attention filled the evening park. Tension filled the twilight park. Zoe standing before us looked surprisingly youthful for 38, with long blonde hair and clear blue eyes. However, the emotions in those eyes were far from calm. Asher and Emily, Zoe's voice had a slight tremor. I never imagined we'd meet here. Asher stepped forward. Zoe, to think you'd be here. At that moment, Zoe's attitude changed completely. Her gentle expression twisted, and anger flared in her eyes. How dare you show up? Both of you. Her voice rang out sharply. I was confused. I understood she was Asher's ex-girlfriend, but why such hostility? Asher, what's going on? I turned to my husband, my voice shaking. Asher let out a deep sigh. Emily, I never told you. Zoe and I dated in college. But we broke up when we graduated. We. Zoe interrupted. Broke up. You abandoned me unilaterally. Tears welled up in her eyes. We had a future, but you ruined everything. As I listened to Asher's confession about his past, various emotions swirled within me. Shock, anger, and above all, anxiety about our current situation. Zoe, that was over 15 years ago, Asher said, trying to reason with her. We've both walked our own paths. Now. Zoe shot back sharply. You can't be happy now, can you? You've lost your child, you must be suffering. At those words, my heart nearly stopped. How does Zoe know about Liam? Zoe, please, Asher's voice lowered. If you know anything about Liam, tell us. Something flashed in Zoe's eyes for a moment. Then, shocking words spilled from her mouth. That child is my son now. It felt as if the world had come to a standstill. My ears started ringing, and my vision darkened. What did you say? My voice sounded as if it was coming from far away. Liam is here. Asher confronted Zoe. Zoe, this isn't funny. Where's Liam? Zoe didn't back down an inch. I can't let you see him. He's happy now. My head felt like it was about to boil over with confusion and anger. Liam is alive. I should be happy just knowing that, but why this situation? Suddenly, a man's voice was heard. Zoe, what's going on? Turning around, we saw a man in his early 40s standing there. Probably John, Zoe's husband. His expression showed confusion and something that looked like guilt. John. Zoe's voice weakened. John looked around at all of us, trying to grasp the situation. Everyone, please calm down. If we talk. At that moment, the siren of a police car rang out. Someone must have called them. Police officers appeared, demanding an explanation of the situation. In the tense atmosphere, we took turns explaining the circumstances. At Zoe's confession, the officers' expressions tightened. Mrs. Johnson, we'll need to search your home, an officer announced. Zoe tried to resist, but John held her back. Zoe, it's enough. Let's end this. Led by the police, we headed towards Zoe's house. In the car, Asher held my hand. That warmth gave me a little strength. As we approached the house, hope and anxiety clashed violently in my chest. We can meet Liam. With that single thought, I moved forward. The moment we arrived at Zoe's house, my heart started pounding fiercely. A 2-story white house. A well-maintained front yard. At first glance, it looked like the home of an ordinary family. But thinking that our son might be inside, I felt my legs grow weak. The police officers knocked on the front door. John, with a tense expression, came out and silently guided us into the house. As we entered the living room, we saw a tidy interior. Family photos hung on the walls. Liam wasn't in any of them. We'll search upstairs too, an officer's voice brought me back to reality. Asher and I followed the officers up the stairs. They carefully searched each room. When we entered what looked like a child's room, my maternal instinct reacted sharply. Liam is here. I was certain of it. I desperately searched the room. Opened the closet, looked under the bed. And when I opened the desk drawer, I gasped. There was Liam's favorite superhero encyclopedia. His childish handwriting was scrawled on the cover. Tears welled up. Found it, my voice was trembling. At that moment, there was a sound from a door at the back of the room. Everyone's gaze focused there. Asher grabbed my hand. His warmth gave me courage. An officer carefully placed his hand on the doorknob. The door slowly opened. There stood Liam, grown to 8 years old. It felt as if time had stopped. Liam's brown hair, his bigger body. But those gentle eyes were the same as 3 years ago. Mom. Liam's voice broke the long silence. Liam. I rushed over, forgetting myself, and embraced my son. Warm. Alive. It really is Liam. The tears wouldn't stop. Emotions that couldn't be put into words overflowed like a torrent. I just kept holding Liam. Asher also rushed over, embracing us both. A strong embrace, as if to fill the 3-year void. It felt like the heartbeats of our family of 3 had become one. I looked closely at Liam's face. A slightly mature expression mixed with his childishness. Faint wrinkles around his eyes. When he smiled, I noticed his front tooth was slightly chipped. Liam, you've grown so much, Asher said through tears. Yes, Dad. I've become strong. Liam's voice had a slightly hesitant tone. The police officers began to assess the situation. Zoe and John were being questioned in a separate room. Amidst the chaotic scene, we were immersed in the joy of our family reunion. After a while, a child psychology specialist arrived. The interview with Liam began. They proceeded with gentle questioning, being mindful of potential trauma. Liam, do you remember that day? The specialist asked kindly. Liam nodded slowly. Yes, I remember. Liam's testimony began. That day, I went outside the tent to get my toy. Then I met Aunt Zoe. Asher and I held our breath at Liam's words. Aunt Zoe said, "Your mom and dad are calling for you." But the place she took me wasn't the campsite. Liam's voice was trembling slightly. I held my son's hand tightly. I was scared at first, but Aunt Zoe and Uncle John were kind to me. But I always wanted to see Mom and Dad. Those words made my chest ache. How lonely he must have felt for 3 years. I'm sorry, Liam. Mom and Dad couldn't find you sooner. Words of apology involuntarily left my mouth. Liam shook his head slightly. Mom, Dad, thank you for looking for me. At those words, tears welled up again. The long 3 years had ended, and we were facing a new beginning. The road ahead wouldn't be smooth. But I strongly felt that we could overcome it together as a family of 3. Detailed questioning began at the police station. Listening to Liam's testimony, the events of that fateful day vividly came back to life. Under a clear blue sky, Liam was searching for his beloved stuffed animal at the campsite. Suddenly, a beautiful blonde woman appeared and gently called out to him. What's wrong? Are you looking for something? Liam answered a bit cautiously, I'm looking for Mr. Bear. Oh, I found it. Look, it's in that car over there. Zoe skillfully led Liam. As they approached the car, she said, Look, see? It's on the back seat, and opened the door. The moment Liam peered inside, Zoe pushed him into the car and quickly closed the door. The engine started, and the car drove off. Liam, who had been excited at first, gradually became anxious. Where are Mom and Dad? You'll see them soon. Zoe's voice had a slight tremor. Unfamiliar townscapes flowed past the window. Real fear crept into Liam's small heart for the first time. Hours later, the car stopped in front of a white house. This is your new home, Zoe's voice confused Liam. Inside the house, John was waiting. Welcome, Liam. This will be your new family from now on. Liam, on the verge of tears, started to say, but my mom and dad. Zoe and John began a complex upbringing, mixing affection and coercion. While they treated him kindly, they forbade him from talking about his real parents. However, Liam secretly continued to make efforts not to forget his parents. He hid family photos under his pillow and whispered his parents' names in the middle of the night. And his ingenious attempt to contact his parents through the online game Monster Hunter Kids. Liam's wisdom and courage became the last hope. Meanwhile, a conflict began within John. He started to develop affection for Liam in their daily life. At the same time, he was tormented by guilt day after day. One night, watching Liam sleeping peacefully, John made up his mind. This can't go on. We have to return Liam to his real family. During the police interrogation, Zoe and John's motives became clear. Zoe's past was revealed. Her mental anguish after breaking up with Asher, and the days of struggling with infertility. There were aspects that deserved sympathy. Meeting and marrying John. The strong desire for a child. But the reality that it couldn't be fulfilled. The couple's conflict deepened. Then one day, Zoe accidentally saw Emily's family. Seeing the happy family, feelings of jealousy and revenge sprouted. Those emotions finally ran wild. John confessed. At first, I intended to help my wife. But gradually, I became tormented by guilt. His voice was tinged with deep regret. And John's internal struggle and decision to return Liam to his real parents. In the end, his conscience and sense of justice prevailed. After the police interrogation, Zoe and John were formally charged. On the day of the trial, we attended the court. The judge pronounced the sentence with a stern expression. Defendant Zoe Johnson, for the crimes of child abduction and unlawful confinement, I sentence you to 15 years in prison. Zoe covered her face with her hands, and the sound of her sobbing echoed in the courtroom. Defendant John Johnson, as an accomplice, I sentence you to 10 years in prison. However, considering your final decision to release Liam Brown, I'm granting a 3-year suspended sentence. John quietly nodded and bowed his head deeply. After the sentencing, Zoe and John stood before us. Zoe apologized through tears. I'm truly sorry. My selfish actions caused you all immense pain. John continued, we know this is unforgivable. But we sincerely apologize. We listened to their words quietly. There was certainly anger and hatred. But at the same time, we could understand their suffering. Asher spoke quietly, your actions can never be forgiven. But we're grateful that you ultimately decided to return Liam. I added, it will take time. But maybe someday, we'll be able to forgive. Liam was tightly holding his parents' hands. His small voice was heard. I'm not scared anymore. Because Mom and Dad are here. Those words brought tears to our eyes. As we left the courtroom, I turned back to look at Zoe and John. Their actions can never be forgiven. However, through this experience, the bond of our family has grown stronger. And we learned the difficulty and importance of forgiveness. And now, the car was heading towards our new home. Liam was sleeping peacefully in the back seat. Looking at his calm sleeping face, I felt the weight of the lost 3 years and the hope for the future simultaneously washing over me. When we arrived home, our neighbors were there to welcome us. Welcome back, Liam. At those voices, Liam, looking a bit confused, waved his hand slightly. In his eyes, joy and anxiety were mixed. As we entered the house, Liam's room was just as it had been. toys, books, even the decorations from his 5th birthday. It was as if time had stopped. Liam timidly entered the room and sat on the bed. "My room, it hasn't changed," his voice was trembling. Asher and I sat on either side of him, gently embracing him. "We've been waiting for you all this time." That night, Liam slept in our room with us. In the middle of the night, he woke up with a small scream. He had a nightmare. "It's okay, Liam. Mom and Dad are here." We gently hugged him and kissed his forehead. When morning came, our new life began. Going to school, playing with friends, and above all, living as a normal family. All of these became precious and important to us. Psychological counseling also began. Liam's recovery would take time. But with his strength and our love, we can surely overcome this. A few weeks later, Liam invited a friend home for the first time. Seeing him nervously introducing his friend, we were filled with joy. And one night, Liam knocked on the door of our bedroom. "Mom, Dad, can I sleep with you?" "Of course." We lay down on the bed, with Liam in the middle. Feeling his warmth, we looked at each other. No words were necessary. At this moment, we felt completely united. In the moonlight streaming through the window, Liam peacefully fell asleep. Looking at his sleeping face, I made a vow in my heart. No matter what happens from now on, we're together. The bond of this family will never be broken again. And a new morning comes. Our story begins again from here.